Welcome to the Laverne Church of the Brethren's weekly audio message. Here at the Laverne Church of the Brethren, we create a Christian community called by Christ to be inclusive, caring, and peace-minded. We affirm that people of any race, ethnic identity, gender identity, sexual orientation, ability, age, economic status, faith tradition, or life situation are welcome in our congregation. We believe in compassionate service, stewardship of creation, respect for diversity, and nonviolent reconciliation for differences among all people, nations, and faith traditions. We claim no creed but the New Testament as exemplified by the life of Christ. We strive to follow the way of Jesus. And through these efforts, we seek to grow ever closer to the mind and heart of God. And now let us ground ourselves as we enter into today's message.
The first reading for today is an excerpt from an interview with Bernice Johnson Reagan from Washington University in St. Louis. Bernice is a song leader, composer, scholar, and social activist who was a founding member of the Freedom Singers in the 1961 Albany movement in Georgia. And in 1973, she founded the all-black female a cappella ensemble, Sweet Honey in the Rock. Through the work of these groups, she realized the unifying power of collective singing. Now, in her words, growing up in Albany, I learned that if you bring people together, you bring them together with the song. To this day, I don't understand how people think they can bring anybody together without a song. If someone came and said, "Bernice, sing a song," or "We want somebody to give us a song," now, you're not asking for a solo. You're asking somebody to raise a song. You're asking somebody to plant a seed. The minute you start the song, then the song is created by everybody there. And when we did those marches and went to jail, we expanded the space we could operate in, and that was echoed in the singing. And it was bigger and more powerful singing. The voice I have now, I got from the first time I sang in a movement meeting after I got out of jail. I did not lead the songs in jail in the voice I have now. The voice I have now, I got that night at the movement meeting, and I'd never heard it before in my life. They did what they usually do. They said, "Bernice, would you lead us in a song?" And I did the same first song. Over my head, I see freedom in the air. But I'd never heard that voice before. I had never been that me before. And once I became that me, I have never let that me go. And I guess what I like people to know when they deal with the movement is that there is a transformation that took place inside of the people, and the singing is just an echo of that. If you have people who are transformed and they create the sound that lets you know they are new people, then certainly you've never heard it before. They also have never heard it before because they've never been that before. The naming of who we were always took place through song. Always. Our second reading is from Psalms, the book of sacred songs and poetry that were intended to be sung. In fact, the word psalm comes from the Greek word psalmos, which means song sung to a harp. I'll be reading Psalm 40, verses 1 through 3a. I waited patiently for God, who inclined to me and heard my cry, who drew me up from the pit of destruction, out of the miry bog, and set my feet upon a rock, making my steps secure. God put a new song in my mouth.
Well, we have been plenty preached to already this morning. Deb, thank you for such a fulsome reading of Bernice's inspirational words. I want to share a few stories this morning about the way that we rely on music, hopefully more than we know. And today is part of discovering how true that is. Growing up, after dinner, I would often hear my mom at the sink, which was her holy place. In the cabinet to the right, she hung all of the special quotes that she loved, including "O Great Spirit," which we turned into an anthem and sing here. I would often hear her humming or singing hymns, and being a play-by-ear kind of guy, I would go into the piano and play along with her. So that was our wonderful communion together. I guess I was kind of encroaching on her personal time, but I think she was okay with it. And I didn't realize how deep that pattern was in me. When I was in Brethren volunteer service in my mid-20s, I worked at Gould Farm in Western Massachusetts. We cared for people with mental illness in a family-like residential setting on a working organic farm, and I was on the kitchen crew. So I would help get people chopping veggies for salad bars and everything else. But sometimes when I was on the late shift, that person got stuck with the mopping as well. And when you're tired after a long day, that space of a big kitchen can seem like a really lot to mop. And I was tired. But invariably, in that early evening time after dinner, I would find myself going to the piano and doing a little hymns. And here's the thing that happened. I would often do, "Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am worn." But maybe you've discovered, what I've discovered is that when you sing about being tired, you soon aren't. Because I think it releases the fatigue. And so I would invariably find myself renewed during my little hymn singing. So thank you, Mom, for setting that example, but also for keeping the tradition alive. And that's what we do every Sunday, as we've been saying. We keep the vision and the dream and the tradition alive to nourish us. So looking at the Bible, what an inheritance it is. So much in there, so many challenges that are hard to rise to, also contradictions that we wish weren't there. I have a few bones to pick with glaring omissions, however. When you think about Jesus' life as depicted in the Gospels, lots of verbs. He said this and that, he went here and there, he healed, laid hands on. There's even bits with mud. Jesus wept, the shortest verse. But where's the sang, please? Where's the Jesus sang? Like, surely music was fueling that movement, surely. Well, what we do know from the child scripture that Tommy read for us today, at the end of the Last Supper, They sang a hymn and then went out. So at least there's one instance we know. And what's more amazing about that is scholars believe it was Psalm 118, which has been a part of our song and worship this morning. Psalm 118 is where the stone that the builders rejected became the cornerstone comes from. So if you think about Jesus going out to the most daunting night of his life and singing that song, the stone that the builders rejected became the cornerstone. You see also how he, in his tradition, received strength. Today, I want to share just a few stories. All of the songs that we inherit from our mothers, from our church, from the radio. The radio songs get us through too. We think of them as oldies, old songs, but they were all new once, because a moment of inspiration caused them to come into being. And in particular, what today we're thinking about how is these songs that arise in the moment power us in the great motions of history. A quote that I want to relate to today is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice." And for years I've cherished a similar thought, which is we can tell which way the arc is bending by looking where the songs are. If the songs are not on the side that you're on, that might not be where the inspiration is. That's not where the arc is bending. I had an aha moment that turned into a song along these lines last year. I was thinking about how on Facebook, my friend Darlene, who was the wife of my major professor in grad school, she wouldn't just thumbs up or heart comments. She always typed something, several sentences to express her love and encouragement. And I realized how much that meant to me that she took that extra bit of time, because it's so easy not to. And then I have a pattern-seeking mind, so I started thinking, who are the ones that do that? And I realized very often it was some of the older women in my thread who would be the ones, yep, that person's going to chime in, that person's going to chime in. And I said, what is it about this? I thought a little bit more about Darlene. She's a plant lover and a gardener. She loves pups and kitties and kiddos. She's a genuine earth mother. And suddenly there was the song. If all the earth mothers are on your side, if the earth mothers are on your side, then rest easy, child, and in their love abide. You can trust that you're going with the tide. My mind quickly went on to images of marching earth mothers, perhaps wearing certain crocheted hats on certain big days in history. Oh, like that big day when I was supposed to meet up with my Laverne church folks, but when there's tens of thousands of cell phone texts going up in downtown LA, I never did find my group. Anyway, aside, there came verse 2. But if the earth mothers march against you, if the earth mothers march against you, turn around, child, and join the other side. Then rest easy in the knowing that you're going with the tide. For the good of all creatures is their care, and the good of all children is the burden that they bear. They look down the generations to the future we must share, and the strength of their goodness is the tide. The tide, where is the tide going? Where is the arc of the moral universe bending? The song that we ended opening singing with today arose at a similar moment, just when it was needed. A new song was put into the mouth of Holly Neer, who wrote Singing for Our Lives. Harvey Milk, the first LGBT city supervisor in San Francisco, had been assassinated in the morning, and thousands of people streamed to City Hall just to be together and have a candlelight vigil. On the way there, Holly Near, there's an interview online where you can see her friend saying, I was sitting next to her and I heard this primal humming coming up from her. And then she started singing. And then she wrote it down on a napkin. And it was, we are a gentle, angry people, and we are singing, singing for our lives. Thank God that song exists. It has so much power for us. I just came back from a choral convention in San Francisco. The opening night concert had 3 local choirs, including the San Francisco Gay Men's Chorus. And unbeknownst to Xander and me, who had been talking about that song, they wanted to tell us the story and teach us that song. And it was amazing to hear them talk about it. When Holly talks about that song, what she says is, think of it, it was rather early in the movement. She said for many people, that was the first time they ever declared out loud their orientation. We are gay and lesbian people. And then she said they changed it through the years. We are gay and straight together. We are a land of many colors. The song has taken on its own life for what we need it to be. But the power that it brings is just amazing. We heard a lot from Bernice Johnson-Reagan's quote this morning about how music brings us together and how music names us and calls us into being. And I think that's what Holly's song was doing. We are a gentle people. We will not be vengeful. We will not be violent. We will move in love. But we are angry because things are not right. And obviously, as Linda has been talking to us today about the horrible gun violence problem, things are not okay. So how do we be the people that the world needs us to be? Because it is daunting. I don't know. Deb said so much about Bernice. I was going to say a little bit more about Bernice's story. The powerful thing that she talks about is how I realized that my inheritance of song in the church and the spiritual tradition was mine, which meant that I could change it. She has this phrase that she said that they would say. She said, are you working on your freedom? Because there was a lot to put your life on the line. Are you working on your freedom? She said when it was time for her as a college student to go put herself on the line and go out there, she said, I was so afraid that no one would be joining me coming out of their classrooms that I refused to turn my head and look back. Because if it was just me, it would be the worst thing in the world. She said finally she turned back and she saw hundreds of people streaming behind the bridge behind her. And so when she was asked to sing a song, what did she sing? She was going to sing, over my head I see trouble in the air. But she says, I didn't see trouble. I saw freedom in the air. So she made that song hers. One of my favorite lines from Downton Abbey comes from Carson. Last season, it's just the best line. It is, what would the point of living be if we did not allow it to change us? And I love that we're thinking about that in terms of song today, how song defines us, calls us into being, calls us to be new people we've never been before. Because the challenges we face do require us to be new people. I've gotten involved in climate action music the last couple of years, and it seems scary. How much do we have to change? Our systems are so embedded in certain patterns. How do we make all the changes that we need? And just our own daily life, don't you feel it? Don't you feel exhausted and overwhelmed just by daily life all the time? How do we also do all these other things that we need to do? But the songs give us strength. And with the climate action piece, I found myself thinking, just like Bernice said, we can become new people. We can become the people that the movement needs us to be. I feel the same way about the environmental challenges. We can become those people, and it's actually exciting. It doesn't have to be scary. It can be exciting to become people we've never been before. So I'm just going to wrap up now, but in a few minutes we'll sing a final hymn and go out, just like Jesus and his disciples did at the Last Supper. And like them, we face daunting challenges as well. But we are equal to them. We shall not be daunted. We have a great tradition undergirding us, 2,000 years of Christian tradition. Guess what? Our ancestors didn't drop the baton, because here we are. 300 years ago with Church of the Brethren history, they didn't drop the baton because here we are. We're going through transitions, but we haven't dropped the baton because here we are. We can do this. And songs are a big part of our strength. May we find them bubbling up like a spring inside of us when we most need them. May we find them like a pot of gold at the end of a rainbow, bending the arc toward justice. May they rise with the tide of Earth Mother goodness. May new songs fill up our mouth like hollies when least expected. May new voices rise in us like Bernice to greet the freedom in the air. Thanks be to this community which every week pledges to live so that Thy will be done on earth, O Lord. And this community which dreams back our dreams when we've dropped them or forgotten them or lost them. And praise be to the power divine from whom all blessings flow, who, when we have forgotten it, touches us with love and sings back our song.
We're so glad that you listened to the message today. If you're looking for an open and affirming, peace-loving, and justice-seeking congregation, consider visiting us for in-person worship on Sundays at 9:30 a.m. We'd love to meet you.